Cunningham took a jab at Caitlin Clark's newest WNBA foes by signing a Jacy Sheldon trading card with a rather humorous message written across the fans' collectible.
Sophie Cunningham just pulled off the most gangster move of the WNBA season. She took a rookie card of her rival, Jacy Sheldon, and with a confident grin, wrote 2 words directly across the front, property of. This wasn't just a funny autograph for a fan, it was a cold-blooded declaration, a public branding that sent an unmistakable message to the entire league. The days of taking cheap shots at Caitlin Clark are officially over. This single, audacious act has become the most talked-about moment of the year, a flashpoint in a conflict that has been simmering just beneath the surface. But to understand why this moment was so much more than a joke, you have to see the on-court cheap shot that lit the fuse and sparked an all-out war.
Watch when Caitlin Clark is trying to create some space. It looked like she just got hit in the eye.
The scene itself was pure gold, a moment that felt ripped straight from a sports movie. During a fan event, with teammates like Lexi Hull laughing beside her, Sophie was in her element, connecting with the Fever faithful. The atmosphere was light, a typical meet and greet where players signed memorabilia and posed for photos. But then, a fan approached with a sly, almost mischievous request, handing her a Jacy Sheldon rookie card. The implication was clear as day. This fan didn't just want an autograph, they wanted a statement. They were handing Sophie a weapon and a platform, all disguised as a piece of cardboard. Without missing a beat, Sophie took the card, uncapped her pen, and with a confident grin, inscribed "Property of Sophie Cunningham" directly across Sheldon's image. The crowd, catching on to the drama, erupted. It was audacious, it was disrespectful, and for a fan base that felt their star player had been under attack all season, it was deeply satisfying. This wasn't just a moment, it was the creation of a meme, a legend in real time. It was the kind of unfiltered personality the league desperately needs. But it wasn't just for show. This public branding was the culmination of a grudge that had already turned physical.
Kind of crazy. When you get Sophie Cunningham to sign a Jacy Sheldon rookie card with property of, that is crazy. That is crazy.
To understand why Sophie felt so bold and why fans cheered so loudly, we have to rewind the tape to the game that lit the fuse. The Indiana Fever were facing the Connecticut Sun, and the tension was palpable. Caitlin Clark, as she has been all season, was a marked woman. Every move she made was met with aggressive, borderline illegal defense. As Clark tried to create space on one particular play, Jacy Sheldon, a rookie already gaining a reputation for overly physical plays, delivered a cheap shot that fans immediately flagged as dirty.
She's the problem. She is the problem.
It wasn't a hard foul in the heat of a play for the ball. It was a knee to the groin area, an unnecessary blow delivered away from the main action that seemed to have one purpose: to intimidate and injure. For Fever fans who had been watching this happen all year, it was another infuriating chapter in the target on Clark's back saga. It felt less like basketball and more like a targeted assault, and for Sophie Cunningham, watching from the floor, it was the final straw. The referees might have missed it, but she saw everything.
Sophie Cunningham has been Caitlin Clark's biggest cheerleader and defender.
And it literally pisses me off when people are like, she's not the face of the league.
Who would be?
What? When people try to argue that she's not the face of our league,
Yeah.
or if our league would be where we're at without her, you're dumb as
Yeah.
You're literally dumb as
The sad truth about this video we just watched is she is the first WNBA player I have seen to openly say this out loud, publicly, and not be ashamed in declaring it. Caitlin Clark is the reason we have been talking about the WNBA. Hate it or love it, it's true. I don't believe that Caitlin Clark necessarily wants that title that everyone has been giving to her. I think she just wants to be appreciated And Sophie Cunningham, she just seems like such a real one, such a good friend. I think especially with women, especially elite level athletes, there's a lot of people, women, who will kind of stab you in the back. There's a lot of jealousy, a lot of resentment, especially when you're good. But Sophie just seems like such a girl's girl. I really, really like her. Maybe Caitlin Clark should do the next American Eagle campaign, or Sophie Cunningham.
But Sophie isn't the type to wait for a fan event to settle a score. Her response was immediate and took place where it matters most, on the court. Later in that same game, she took matters into her own hands. In a move that was both subtle to the casual viewer but unmistakable to anyone watching closely, Cunningham delivered her own brand of physical justice to Sheldon. She let her know through the universal language of a hard screen or a strategic box out that targeting the team's superstar comes with immediate consequences.
Just go tomorrow. You're on the Las Vegas Strip. What can the Las Vegas expect from Sheldon?
Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna be me. I don't go in there trying to predetermine anything. I'm dialed in. I need to focus on hitting my shots, making sure I'm executing the schemes right. I'm not focused on the extracurricular activities. And you know what? During that, it was just part of the game. I think the refs had a lot to do with that. It was a build up for a couple of years now of them just not protecting, the star player of the WNBA. And so at the end of the day, I'm going to protect my teammates. That's what I do. And I'm a team player. So.
She wasn't going to let it slide. She established that if the referees weren't going to protect her teammate, she would. This wasn't a dirty play designed to injure, it was a policing action, a classic enforcer's move to let an opponent know a line had been crossed. This is how the unwritten rules of the game are upheld. The autograph that went viral later was simply the public confirmation of a private war she had already started on the hardwood. She had already established dominance. The signature was just her claiming the trophy. This brings us to one of the most sacred, unwritten codes in all of professional sports, the vital role of the enforcer. Every truly great, game-changing superstar has had one. These are the players who operate as a human shield, ensuring their team's most valuable asset can play freely without fear of cheap shots. In hockey, Wayne Gretzky, the greatest scorer of all time, was famously protected by Dave Semenko, a man whose entire job was to ensure no opponent took liberties without paying a steep and painful price. In basketball, Michael Jordan had the fearsome Charles Oakley, and later, the eccentric Dennis Rodman, teammates who would get in your face and absorb the hard fouls, so Jordan wouldn't have to. Larry Bird had Rick Mahorn. These players operate on a simple creed: you mess with our star, you mess with me. In today's WNBA, Caitlin Clark is that transcendent star, the most targeted player in the league, and Sophie Cunningham has emphatically and publicly claimed the role of her enforcer. It would be a huge mistake, however, to label Sophie as just a bodyguard or a goon. That's precisely what makes her so compelling and so effective in this role. She's not some end-of-the-bench player trying to make a name for herself with hard fouls. She is a legitimate, high-level contributor whose on-court production is vital to the Fever's success. She is a deadly three-point shooter, a reliable starter, and a player who has been on an absolute tear since the All-Star break, often carrying the team offensively when others go cold. Take the game against the Phoenix Mercury, where the Fever as a team looked completely flat and disengaged. Sophie showed up, dropping 18 points and playing with a relentless energy that shamed her teammates. She's also Clark's most vocal and passionate defender off the court. In a now famous clip, she went off on critics, stating that anyone who doesn't think Clark is the face of the league is dumb as H*ELL. In a world of carefully crafted PR statements, her raw, unfiltered honesty is why fans connect with her so deeply. She backs up her tough talk with real production, making her the complete package of skill and swagger. To fully grasp the significance of Sophie's actions, you have to zoom out and look at the turbulent, emotionally charged environment Clark entered. The Caitlin Clark effect is undeniable: sold-out arenas, record-breaking TV ratings, and the unprecedented arrival of charter flights for the entire league. But this massive wave of attention, and the money that comes with it, has created a dark undercurrent of resentment. All season long, Clark has been subjected to a level of physicality that goes far beyond typical rookie hazing. We saw it with Kennedy Carter's blindsided hip check away from the ball, a non-basketball play so egregious it sparked a national debate and was later upgraded to a flagrant 1 foul. We saw it with Diamond DeShield's body check that looked more like an NHL hit, and Marina Mabrey's after the whistle shove. These weren't just tough defense, they felt personal, like a message was being sent by some veterans. Jacy Sheldon's cheap shots were just the latest example in a pattern of behavior that suggests some players aren't happy with the new queen of the court. The league is facing an identity crisis, torn between embracing its new cash cow and placating veterans who feel their years of hard work have been overlooked. This intense dynamic has created 2 drastically different career trajectories for the 2 players at the center of this storm. On one side, you have Sophie Cunningham, whose reputation is soaring to new heights. Fans have affectionately nicknamed her Black Belt Barbie, a perfect nod to her martial arts background and her unique blend of glamour and toughness. She's rapidly becoming the Fever's second most popular player, a cult hero celebrated not just for her skill but for her loyalty and her swagger. On the other side of the coin is Jacy Sheldon. Drafted 5th overall, a spot that comes with immense pressure and expectations, her rookie season has been a public relations disaster. She was traded by the Dallas Wings before she could even unpack her bags, a massive red flag for a top pick. Now, instead of being known for her scoring or defense, her defining moments so far have been her questionable fouls on Clark, and now being the player who was publicly owned by Sophie Cunningham. It's a brutal, real-time lesson in how quickly a player's narrative can be written for them in the unforgiving court of public opinion. Sophie's bold move wasn't made in a vacuum, and its impact went far beyond social media. It sent a powerful ripple through the Fever's own locker room. Remember, her teammate Lexi Hull was sitting right there laughing along. That wasn't just a polite chuckle, it was a cosign for a young team that had often looked passive while their star player took a beating. This was a paradigm shift. Sophie's actions set a new, unspoken standard of accountability. The message was no longer just play hard, it was now protect our own at all costs. This single act of defiance may have done more for team chemistry than any practice or team-building exercise ever could. It's the kind of moment that forges a foxhole mentality, uniting a team against a common enemy. It puts pressure on everyone else to match that energy, to prove they are also willing to stand up and fight. In a long and grueling season, this was the rallying cry the Fever desperately needed. While the move solidified the team internally, it created a firestorm externally. The public and media reaction was explosive, cementing Sophie's new persona. The nickname Black Belt Barbie took off. Perfectly capturing the duality of her brand, she's stylish and charismatic, but she also possesses a black belt in Taekwondo and isn't afraid to get her hands dirty. But beyond the memes, this was a masterclass in psychological warfare. Think about it from Jacy Sheldon's perspective. She now has to enter every future game knowing she has been publicly humiliated, that her rival literally branded her as her property. That's a mental hurdle that is incredibly difficult to overcome. Every hard foul, every stare down is now seen through that lens. Sheldon's silence in the aftermath has been deafening, only serving to amplify Sophie's dominance. In modern sports, the battle for the narrative is often as important as the battle on the court. Sophie didn't just win a physical confrontation, she won the narrative war in a spectacular and devastating fashion. In the end, that property of autograph was so much more than a witty comeback or a funny meme. It was a turning point. It was a shot heard round the league. It was Sophie Cunningham looking not just at Jacy Sheldon, but at every player in the WNBA, and drawing a definitive line in the sand. The message was loud and clear. The days of taking free shots at Caitlin Clark are over. The Indiana Fever are no longer a young team that will stand by and watch their superstar get roughed up. They have an enforcer, they have a leader, and they have a player with the guts to say what everyone else is thinking. Sophie didn't just win a moment, she may have single-handedly shifted the entire identity of her team from a squad under siege to a team that fights back. The only question now is, did Sophie Cunningham just save the Fever's season, or did she just paint an even bigger target on all of their backs? The rest of the season will give us the answer.